Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 240 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about better investments than Bitcoin. And yes, there are some. Yes, there will be more. And today I'm going to talk about Tesla. And I'm phrasing it specifically that way to be a little bit provocative for the maxis out there who think that the only purpose in life is just to work your 9 to 5 job, eat as cheaply as possible, and drive a paid off car, stack sats, and then you can just live off the sats one day and twiddle your thumbs. But there have to be things worth spending your Bitcoin on, and there have to be ideas and projects and companies that will provide more value than just hodling your Bitcoin. Somebody comes out with a cure for cancer and they're like, give me half a Bitcoin or whatever, hopefully when Bitcoin's $1 million a coin, maybe it'll be zero point 0.1 Bitcoin or whatever. Hopefully the rates won't be so cheap, but you'll pay whatever the price is. If you have it, you'll pay it, and you'll be glad to, because it will have provided more value than all of the Bitcoin in the world. Because if it can extend your life or improve your quality of life, you're going to pay it. And there's going to be plenty of other companies that are going to be delivering value for the human race other than just, cures for cancer and whatnot. And if you think about it, it has to be that way, because otherwise Bitcoin literally would just be a tulip. It would just be people stacking sats, hoping that number go up. But for what reason? And my hope is that Bitcoin cleans up the entire corrupt, all of the industrial complexes. So the medical industrial complex, the pharmacological industrial complex, the media industrial complex, just all of the corrupted industries, once they're held to the, a standard that is holding the entire world to the free market, then hopefully these industries will get cleaned up. And at some point, every company and every idea will just succeed or fail based on its merits. So there's gonna come a time when someone has an idea, or they just have a company and they're coming out with this and they're coming out with that, and they're developing something, and the world is gonna be like, hell yeah, that's valuable. But that person may not have any money, or people are just going to be like, hey, I want to invest in that company because it's worth it. And when something succeeds, it should appreciate in value more than Bitcoin. Maybe not this cycle. And we're still in the the kind of the vertical part of Bitcoin. We're still so early that it's going to be very rare to find a company that's going to outperform Bitcoin on the short term. But in 10, 20 years after Bitcoin kind of levels off and it's less volatile and people are using it, they're saving in it, they're spending in it, store value, you can get your cup of coffee, or you can just sit on your mountain of coins, whatever. Everybody is able to do whatever the hell they want with Bitcoin, because we'll be able to transact on layer 2, etc. When that time happens, people that have accumulated wealth are going to be looking around for things that they can do with it to better humanity and expect a return on that investment. There's kind of a myth where people say, oh, well, we need inflation because it encourages people to spend, and nobody would invest in innovation. And that's completely ass backwards. because what really happens is when people are allowed to save their money, that's what seeds investments. If somebody's sitting around, they saved their whole life or, half their life, whatever, how long it took you to save up a stack, and somebody else needs some capital and you have some capital, then you supply the capital, the good idea gets produced, and then they share the returns with you. And so that was a long ass winded way of getting to the point that Tesla is a more valuable investment than Bitcoin. And it may not happen, since this is kind of like we're right in the middle of this bull cycle. I'm not saying that I'm going all in on Tesla. I'm selling my Bitcoin and I'm selling MicroStrategy and I'm going all in on Tesla right now in the middle of the fucking bull market. But what I'm saying is, like ARK Invest has a price target on Tesla, I think of is it like 2,500 by 2029? And so that's even another bull cycle. But if we're in the middle of 2025 and I've booked all of these on paper profits in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and in another couple of years Tesla might 10x, I don't think we're getting a 10x in Bitcoin. I don't know how much the diminishing returns are. We're getting the institutional adoption this time, and maybe 2029 we get the nation state adoption. So maybe we have one more order of magnitude up, so maybe we do get a 10x from last year's bottom. So I think that's kind of reasonable. So if we 10x from the bottom to the top, I think we bottomed at 15K. So I think 150K Bitcoin is pretty safe assumption. I would love to see 250 or, more. Of course I would love to see 1 million, but other than a wild ass guess, I don't really think we're going to hit 1 million. I have no data or anything. So that's just me giving my opinion that means nothing and has no scientific or mathematical basis. I'm just talking out, thinking out loud. But then if we get a 50% drawdown and then, or, I don't think the drawdowns are going to be as bad either. So maybe we get a drawdown to 100. If we 10x from the bottom and we bottom at 100, maybe we go up to 2, we bottom out at 100, and then the 2029 cycle, maybe we get a 10x from the 100 to 1 million, maybe finally crack 1 million in 2029. I don't know. But if Tesla gets their robotaxi going, it's gonna dwarf their EV sales. And then once they get Optimus going, and every household that can afford one is going to want a freaking robot to do shit for them. I want 10 of them. So I'm hoping MSTR pumps to the moon so that I can afford a freaking army of Tesla robots, because I don't want to mow the lawn. I don't want to fold my clothes. There's tons of shit that I don't want to do. And, I want to move to the country somewhere with a bunch of fruit trees and just have Tesla bots out there slaving away in the hot sun. So my kind of master plan that I'm sending out to the market gods is MicroStrategy moons. I unload all of my margin. So I have like 6 figures in margin that I'm using. in my Tasty Trade account. I got to get rid of all my margin. And I've borrowed like unsecured debt. I think I borrowed, I can't remember if it's 70. I totaled it up the other day. But then I've got a secured loan on my car that I just got for like 11.5, and I've got 30 grand. Yeah, 30 grand out on a HELOC. So my home equity line of credit. So I've borrowed money to buy MicroStrategy, and then I'm borrowing even more on the margin account to buy MicroStrategy. So at some point in 2025, I've got to eliminate all of my leverage. I won't have any margin debt. I won't have any long calls left on the books. I will either have sold them for profit or exercised them if they're in the money. And at that point, I will probably be aggressively selling covered calls to try to generate cash for the next bear market so that I can buy the dips. And if MicroStrategy is at all-time highs and I'm selling covered calls, I'm not going to be buying more MicroStrategy at all-time highs. I'm not Michael Saylor. I'm not buying the top forever. He can borrow at fucking 0% interest or whatever. He can afford to buy the top forever, and he can probably make some kind of magic happens if Bitcoin collapses 75%. And, you know, I'm sure he's got levers he can pull, and he's already got a plan. But I don't have all of those levers to pull. So I have to be prepared if Bitcoin and MicroStrategy crashes 75%. I'm not predicting that the bull bear cycle continues or discontinues, but I have to be ready for for either of those eventualities to take place. So I will have no margin, no debt, and no leverage, like as far as like long calls. Those will all be either book profits, book losses, whatever the hell it is. Sometime in 2025, I will be laddering into taking profits. And for me, I probably won't be exercising very many of my long calls. I mean, most of mine are at the 380 strike anyway. So, I mean, they would have to get to $400, $450, $500 a share, which I don't think is impossible and don't even really think it's terribly unlikely. So, there might be some opportunities for me to exercise those calls. But if I just have to sell off a bunch of it to eliminate all of this debt anyway, I don't know how much and how many of those opportunities I'm going to have. But my little prayer to the market gods is that MicroStrategy and Bitcoin pump through 2025. I can book life-changing, life-altering profits, and then I will be, hopefully, if Tesla hasn't gotten to, ARK's $2,500 price target that soon, which I don't think they will, because they won't be able to have ramped into the $25,000 vehicle. They're probably going to start pumping, and they won't have the robotaxi fleet completely done yet. But once they start booking profits from full self-driving and robotaxis, and they're even, people don't talk about the semis all that much, but they're going to be pumping out semis for delivery, and who knows what else they got that they haven't told us about. There we go. So I've got this, basically like a token Tesla position. I had been pairing off bits of that as it pumped from 200 to whatever it is now, 250. And I'm trying to keep a little bit of it just to at least, kind of convince the Tasty Trade algorithm that I don't only trade MicroStrategy. Like, come on here. I've got this other investment too. Like, I'm not completely at risk here, even though 90% of my value is MicroStrategy. But, if MicroStrategy is 500 a share, if I make it through this covered call selling with 2,000 shares, I'll be sitting pretty, and the covered call generation that I'll be able to get from this will be pretty freaking insane. And my plan is I'm hoping that Tesla will still kind of be languishing, like hopefully it won't double by mid 2025. I'll consider $500 a share Tesla like a serious bargain. And I don't even care if Musk is the CEO or not. Some people invest in it because of him. Some people don't invest of it because of him. I'm not sure if that's a wash. I'm not sure if more people do or don't because of some of the things that he famously, does and says. I couldn't care less because I think Tesla is basically autopilot regardless of whoever's running the company. I think their DNA at this point is so ingrained on being head and shoulders above all of the other companies that it's going to take a few decades for them to degrade and decay back into a normal company. So Tesla, I think, is a generational investment. And so that's kind of just my master plan is hopefully Tesla will not just go completely, hopefully they don't 10x, like 2x by 2025. I still would consider them cheap. And hopefully after I pay off all of my margin and all of my debt, if I've got more, some money to spare and all of the money that I'll be printing from selling covered calls in 2025 and beyond, I will be plowing into Tesla. And then hopefully by 2029, Tesla will be 2,500 a share, like ARK suggests. And it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being low. Some of the TradFi people I follow actually clown on ARK. Just take a look at ARK. Is it ARK Innovation or ARK K? There we go, ARK K. And how far does this go back on this chart? 2023. Let's look at a weekly. See if this looks shitty. Has ARK even been around? 5 years? Maybe not. Let's just look at it here. Okay. So they looked like a genius when everyone was printing money when the rates were low. And then of course tech went to shit. But if you're TradFi and if you had 100% of your investment in ARK and when it went to 100 and then it went to 150, if you didn't rebalance into something else and you just held through this when the rates went up, that's not ARK's fault. It's ARK's fault that they don't have some kind of plan in place for when the market sentiment sours on tech, but they'll be back when interest rates start coming down more and a bunch of their tech companies surge. They'll be back. And I like some of their research, and I think they're probably going to be correct on Tesla. So I probably should have said this up front, but it's not that these other companies are better than Bitcoin for everything. I'm just talking about returns because there are some things that Bitcoin offers, and it only Bitcoin offers it. So self-sovereign money, that's Bitcoin. It's the only asset that you can store in your brain. You can store the keys in your brain. You can hop a flight, go to another country, and basically restore your entire worth in a new location. Um, and all this money in the stock market, anything that you have in a checking account or savings account, it can all be stolen, frozen, restricted, confiscated, uh, repriced. I mean, when MicroStrategy is worth more than most of the countries on the planet, and the U.S.'s economy is going down the drain, is that an existential risk? I mean, will they seize seize Coinbase's Bitcoin, um, or even seize shares of MicroStrategy? They seized gold back in the day, so there's all kinds of doomsday scenarios that I do not consider 0% chance of happening. Like, they're non-zero risks. So while I see that I consider MicroStrategy a generational investment, it doesn't have to be 100% all the time. And that's this is still trying to generate. That's garbage. All right. Yeah, I don't think I like the weekly anyway. Whatever. I don't even give a shit about that chart anymore. Sour grapes. Yeah, that's all I got. Is there are going to be things worth investing in. There are going to be things worth parting with your precious Bitcoin. And there's no second best regarding Bitcoin for sovereign money. Just personally guaranteeing your own property rights. Only Bitcoin can do that. That's it. They're the only game in town. And at a certain amount, you have to get off zero. I can't give financial advice, but this is more like shit hits the fan advice. Everyone needs to get off zero so that they can, uh, you know, flee, flee with their family on short notice, and set up their new life in a new location, without permission, like without having to wait for the government to send you a $750 check because your house slid down the mountain in a mudslide. Everyone needs to get off zero. But once you're off zero and you have a emergency fund, basically everyone's emergency fund should probably be Bitcoin. Once you're beyond that, I I'm not um I'm not rigid on everybody just stack sats and do nothing and sit on their hands. And that does have some wisdom, if that will prevent you from making any mistakes whatsoever. If you just stack sats, you can't screw that up. Stack sats and hodl. But for people who want Bitcoin to be useful and they want to be purposeful and useful themselves, for humanity, and Jeff Booth says it this way: Bitcoin will deliver us a world where 8 billion people are in service of 8 billion people. So in a world where everyone is in service of everyone, not because they're ordered to because we passed a law, because we banned something, or because we're trying to enforce something, but just because for the first time in human history, the incentive is there for cooperation and not theft and war. At that point, when someone's sitting on their stack, they're going to be like, hey, I wonder if I should do something good with this fucking Bitcoin I have. And companies like Tesla transitioning the world to, sustainable energy, delivering robotaxis and just making transportation affordable, providing robots to, multiply the the production capacity of society, and all of those things are going to be amazing to watch. And I just hope I live long enough to see it, and hopefully the market gods will give me a nice low Tesla price that I can get low next year with all of my MSTR loot. All right, be good, Joe.